Oh, Liliana, you're the only one who understands me. Ha! Hey, kids, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and that you are having a great day. And in today's video, I wanted to sit back, relax, and have a conversation with you boys about bulk. My favorite word when it comes to trading card games. It's actually not my favorite word. It's like top 5, maybe. My favorite word is winning. Yeah. This video is a follow-up to my Is It Possible to Be Profitable with Bulk video that I put out a few days ago, where instead of talking about the end result of bulk and how profitable selling bulk can be, I want to follow up with a quick answer to a question someone posted on Discord of how do you source bulk? Where do you get your bulk? How do you acquire lots of bulk? And there are a few ways. You see, not everybody is just going to have hundreds or even thousands of cards just lying around, and sometimes they just want to get started on bulk buying. And there is a few ways to get a hold of bulk and to increase your... That's a very loud truck passing by. Okay, we're good. There's a few ways to go about getting bulk, and it kind of... Which option you end up choosing kind of depends on your situation and personal preference. So, the first and most obvious is that bulk kind of accumulates as you're opening sealed product. For instance, over the last 2 years or so, I have been opening a lot of Flesh and Blood. And obviously opening up cases of Flesh and Blood results in piles of Flesh and Blood bulk just kind of sitting around and accumulating, and sooner or later you look at that giant pile of bulk and go, all right, I got to sort that. That has to get organized. So option number 1 is to just naturally let bulk accumulate as you buy and open and play the various games you like. But that's kind of the weakest option, because at the end of the day, your bulk isn't going to be acquired. It's just going to accumulate. It's bulk you already had. You're not here for bulk you already had. You're here to learn about where and how to get bulk. Well, the other options, there's 2 other general options, and then a third one we can talk about. The first one is to source it from friends. You see, there's a decent chance that if you have friends who play Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, they're going to have piles of unused common and uncommon cards that they don't play with, they don't use for decks, and they just don't really want. You can ask around and see if they are willing to part with that bulk for some cash. Now, how much you pay for it is kind of between you and your buddies, but it's in general a good idea to have a price in mind, a budget in mind for bulk. For instance, I tend to purchase bulk for, depends on the card game, but around $4 or $5 per 1,000, depending on A, what the game is, and B, how much of it I already have. So for instance, like, I've got a lot of Force of Will, and I've got a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I've got a lot of Flesh and Blood. I've got so much of this stuff, so I tend to offer less for, say, Magic the Gathering or Force of Will than I would for, say, Digimon. I only have, like, maybe 10,000 Digimon cards on my inventory right now. Probably not even close to that much, just because I know that those boxes aren't all full, and that's kind of all I've got for Digimon right now at the moment. You know. So, how much you have versus how much you want more of it kind of helps determine how much you're willing to spend on a fat stack. And, of course, your friend is going to want some money too, so you guys got to talk it out and agree. But the point is, you can talk to friends and see how much they're willing to part with. How much they're willing to part with for. What they're willing to sell their bulk for. worded that sentence really poorly. I apologize. But option two is to hit up a local game store. Chances are, if you have one or more stores in the area and you're familiar enough with the owner, they might sell you excess bulk. Not every local game store is in the business or the practice of dealing with hundreds or thousands of excess bulk cards. Some of them have a very tight ship with only so much time available. Some only have one or two employees, and they don't have all the time in the world to sift through their bulk. So chances are you might have a store nearby that's willing to just offload it. Maybe for a higher price than they would pay, but as long as it's a price you can stomach, then it's probably not out of the question to find value in just taking some of the unsold bulk that stores have. And this can do a few things. Not only will it give you access to bulk, but it could, just be good overall for your relationship with that store. They'll have someone reliable to offload their bulk onto, which can go a long way towards making you good buddies with the store owner. And, it's never a bad idea to be friends with your LGS owner, you know. But then there is a third option, and this is the option that I use the least because of how I don't want to say how poor it is, because it's not a bad option, but it is the worst of them. So just to recap, you can buy from friends for, whatever. They have cards they don't want, they can sell it to you for a small fee. You can buy it from a store owner, someone who's going to have lots of bulk on hand, who might not want it and might be willing to part with it for a small fee. You will know your friends, and there's a very good chance that you're on familiar terms with your local store owner. So there's very low risk there, right? Option 3 is buying from some rando online at whatever price they choose to set. And this has two things about it that I don't like. One, buying from some random person can lead to issues of trust and all that jazz, where instead of sending you, especially if you're buying off like a Craigslist ad or Facebook Marketplace, where there's no accountability for anything. You buy a bulk pie off of someone on Craigslist and they send you a fat stack of basic lands instead of vintage magic bulk. I know what I've got, 200 solid. There's a risk there. There is a risk there. But there's also the fact that a lot of people who are selling their collections or bulk stuff online tend to set exorbitant prices, expecting that they have some kind of absolute fortune's worth of cards on their hands. And I have, for a while, for well over 2 years, I had been trying to buy bulk collections online through Facebook Marketplace, through Craigslist, through eBay, etc. Only rarely have I found it to be worth it. Most of the time, people who are selling online, and I'm not saying all the time, just a lot of it, most of the time, people who are selling online have very high expectations for what their stuff is worth, and it's not necessarily accurate. Now, there is a bit of a barter thing. You can go back and forth with them and see if they're willing to lower the price, but you'll see people who are like, yeah, I've got 1,000 Pokemon cards from Scarlet Violet base. They're all commons and uncommons, and I want $50 for it. And you're just thinking, buddy, where are you getting someone to buy that off of you at that price? There's more risk involved, and it's usually not worth the hassle, is ultimately what I would say about buying online. Now, it can work out. I have acquired bulk collections online that have been worth it, but it's few and far between, and I've also had a lot of collection buying online where it's just been a giant hassle and just not worth the time. So, ultimately, which of these options you choose to go with is up to you. Maybe you don't have an LGS and buying online is your only option. Or maybe you just have a lot of friends in the area who play a lot of different card games and they want to dump all that stuff on you for a good fee. There's a lot of things out there, but I tend to find that if you just put yourself out there and let people know that, hey, I'm buying bulk, here's how much I'm willing to pay for it, here's where you can, meet up and drop it off. People do tend to respond to that well, especially if you're in like Facebook or Discord groups where people buy, sell, and trade their stuff a lot. Putting out that you buy bulk can more often than not just be good on its own in order to not just get people buying from you right away, but also putting you in their mindset for the future. Because if you buy bulk from them once, they're probably going to, consider you in the future. So it's just something to be aware of that, hey, there are plenty of avenues for it. And not only is there places like eBay and Facebook Marketplace to source your bulk, but you can just, through general social media, let people know that, hey, you're buying and they might be interested in selling to you. So if at the end of the day you are just really that desperate for bulk, just keep in mind that there's a lot of ways to acquire it out there. And a big fat pile of cards is never too far. But that's all I've got for you guys today. This was a follow-up video to an earlier video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. You've made it to the secret ending of the video, which means you're either a really dedicated fan or you are just very bored. Either way, thank you for making it to this point. I've been trying to do more and more videos recently in one take, just to see how they're received by the general audience. So if videos being shot all at once with no editing is what you're interested in, and it's a bit more raw and less curated in terms of what I'm saying, let me know. I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. This time for real, though. Ciao.